Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. It's morning for me. I'm just going to go into a little flow and see where it goes. And as we rise up in our ranks, so to speak, as we rise in our numbers, this is a play on words, as we rise up from that which it is we perceive as rank. So this is two versions, right? One version of rank is like disgusting, gross. Ew, that's rank. Maybe that's a Valley Girl term, I'm not sure. And the other one is literally a hierarchy. But I'm seeing the star seeds and the light workers and the humans that are working on this, their own clearing, transmuting, growth, spiritual journeys. The numbers are expanding and they're moving up in levels, so to speak. And this isn't to be compared with the old definition of hierarchy, but it is a vision of arcing, electricity. We are being invited to see with clarity, with clear vision, in purposeful reality, allowing ourselves to combine with the old reality in such a way that we hold space, in such a way that we create from our own space. Yet in this connected space with our brothers and sisters, we weave in codes. We weave in our own fractality to assist in supporting the reality. So I talked about this briefly in yesterday's video, that I was being shown that we're holding space so that not everything falls apart. We want things to fall apart, but we don't want things to just crumble into the ocean and everybody runs around hysterically losing their mind. Even though that's what it feels like sometimes, right? And I'm just being shown like we're space holders, some of us, so that we can create this ability for others to go through their own journey and their own process. And that can be challenging for our ego at times, is what I'm being shown. Sometimes our egos want to be the controller and say, well, this is how this space should look, and this is how this space should unfold, and this is how another person's journey should look. But we're being constantly invited to ask ourselves, would we want somebody else dictating to us how our journey should look and how we should be, what choices we should be making? How does that make us feel when someone else is, I'm hearing holding that thumb on our triggers, so to speak. Many of us hold codes as perceivers and receivers, so to speak. And this is a play on words. For as you recognize that you hold many codes, you become the perceiver and the perceived. You become the receiver and the sender. For we are all a self-reflection looking within. I'm seeing this never-ending fractal space of looking within, going deeper, seeing all of these mirrors. And many of us have become distracted by the show. Our light wanders, so to speak, and jumps into other bandwidths, for we are sending our awareness into that bandwidth. We are deciding to play on that team or band, or jump on the bandwagon. And I'm hearing the wheels on the bus go round and round, and that we get stuck on that bus, and it can be fun for a while, and it can be very useful in many ways. And no matter which route we choose to take, whether it is the slow version, the slow route, riddled with doubt and fear and confusion, or we choose, and I see people hopping off that bus and then hopping back on and then hopping on that bus and then going, how did I get on this bus? Where is this bus taking me anyways? Oh, I don't want to be on here. And I'm seeing them like pull a cord, a rip cord, and be like, all right, I'm out. And it can truly be that simple. For we are being invited to see the simplicity of jumping timelines, of jumping realities. We overcomplicate the dictation, so to speak, the words, the flow, what has been told to us, and what we tell others, oftentimes can be used to sway our, I'm hearing conscientiousness, and I'm hearing sway a consensus. So lots of plays on words here, as always. And I'm being guided to play with that a little deeper. So don't con the consensus. Like, we are seeing this, but we con ourselves sometimes thinking, oh, this is the higher senses, this is the higher self. But in reality, it's power. I'm hearing power coming from the ego. So sometimes, and the ego isn't the only sense of power, but oftentimes control is an aspect of an egoic personality. And when I say personality, that's just a piece of clothing that we've put on, like a sweater, right? And it just is what we're wearing in that moment. So we're being invited to really feel into the difference between power and power. So there's higher power, and then there is higher power with compassion, knowing, love, peace, bliss. And this is where the simplicity of making sure that we are in our hearts, that we are in a place of gratitude. And I'm hearing the word narcissism. This is a word that's come up a couple times for me for several different reasons. There are those who feel that they are coming from a place of compassion. You know, oh, you poor thing. And that isn't a bad thing. This is not judgment. But sometimes people wear their compassion or their empathic abilities as a sleeve of protection and a mirror role reversal. So what I'm being shown is that people will sometimes deflect or project something onto somebody else, because that then makes them feel in control and have more power, aka narcissism. And this could be anything. Someone can be a narcissist and still seem like the nicest person ever, but they can also hold that need for control of the situation by dictating to somebody else. For example, oh, you poor thing, you really shouldn't do that because I know better, and you aren't necessarily well enough, smart enough, wealthy enough, powerful enough, strong enough, whatever it might be, worthy enough to know better. So I'm going to then tell you what you need to know and how you need to behave, etc. So I'm using this as an example because this is across the board something that I'm seeing happening with a lot of people in relationships, in regards to certain subject matter. You know, a doctor tells you should do something, but then because they're a doctor, they know everything. Yet another doctor will tell you something completely different because they also went to medical school. So who knows more, and who is the person to listen to? And ultimately, I'm using that as an example, but it comes down to our own discernment and taking our sovereignty back. Not that we gave it away, but some people have given it away to those types of people who are in a hierarchy. I'm seeing this go back to the beginning of this message. Like we're rising up in ranks. So it isn't about us being better than, or smarter than, or more spiritual, or I know this because my guides told me. Well, that maybe you might be, I'm being guided to go a little deeper into this. So my guides, I'm connecting in with many different dimensional frequencies and beings and versions of myself and quantum. And a lot of people are. So if somebody connects in, let's say, with the 9, there's lots of 9s. The 9 aren't just the only frequency of 9, right? That's a collective frequency, and perhaps one collection of 9 is through the Arcturian dimensional frequencies, and another one may be through a galactic space in the Orion frequencies. And then we have that belief that, oh, well, if it's coming from Orion, then it must be negative. And that's another, again, I always say this, but that's another video. We could go into that in itself. But recognizing, again, we have to use our own discernment. If someone is giving a message of love, but it happens to come from a place that we have attributed it to a negative connotation, we're being invited to feel into that and recognize that just because somebody comes from a particular area doesn't make them bad or good. There's polarity in all areas. And that's another, I am planning on doing a video about light language because this has been coming up a lot in my awareness lately. Judgment around certain light languages, and so we'll go into that maybe in this video. So we're being invited to reflect on our own strengths and weaknesses, so to speak, and recognize that it's time for us to use our own higher senses and sensibilities. I also talked yesterday about being overly sensitive. Like, there's a difference between being overly sensitive to everything and everyone and reacting to everything. Sometimes when we first might be empathic, sometimes people's telepathic and empathic abilities kick on when they're in a place of fear. And so they're getting all these downloads and messages, but they're not channeling them through their heart. And so they get an answer to something from their higher self, and it's not wrong. But that version of them that is then perceiving that answer is in a place of fear. So then they interpret the message as a fearful message, for example. And if we take that across the board, many of us might recognize that quite a few of the messages that have come through in fear can also be digested and used for messages of peace. And I use the example from the movie Contact. I need to watch that movie again. But there's a scene in the movie Contact where they get this message, and I know I'm going to mess this up because it's been years since I've seen it. But they got this message, they sent out this message into space, or the message came back, and it was like bad. It had like the Nazi regime and I say bad with, I'm just saying it was not, if you get a message with somebody like Hitler on it, you might go, that's not positive and love and light. But then they decoded the message, and the message was behind that message. So even though it had this negative connotation to it, when you dug a little deeper, there was a code hidden within it. And oftentimes, that's how our whole matrix or reality is. It's codes within codes within codes. And we can jump on the negative bandwagon and decode all of that without ever seeing the deeper. I'm next to phi, which makes me think of phi, P-H-I, the golden means. That spiral is the building blocks, right, of matter, of manner. So can we see past all of this dark and light polarity and get to that space of neutrality? And that can be challenging at times. I'm not always there. For the Christed frequencies are overflowing and rising up the ranks. So when I say Christed, some people say Christed, some people say Christ. It's funny, I just saw a carpenter truck go by. An electric and carpenter truck. So I see that as like a gentle reminder. Listen, our electricity, we are shaping our reality. The pineal gland is and that Christed frequency. We are crystal beings. Wow. Sorry, I just saw someone in the left-hand turning lane make a right-hand turn in front of everybody. So, we are Christed beings, and we're being invited to tune into that higher frequency, because there are more of us now, and we can find our soul groups, we can find our brothers and sisters, and we can find this, I'm hearing consistency. So PHI, right, the golden means, the spiral. We can, I had a golden dragonfly land on my notes yesterday. This beautiful gold dragonfly, and it just sat there for a really long time. We had a moment. So what happens is we're being invited to tune into that frequency, that golden bus, so to speak, right? And recognize that golden, so that we know what bus we're jumping on. We're on our own bus, so to speak, our own school of thought, and we're not schooling others, right? And then I'm coming back to this. So there are a lot of people who are used to being in that space of power and control, and it can be scary for them to not be in that place anymore. And so, it's no longer, oh, I told you so, or, it's more of what I'm seeing is we're all in this together, and that's become such a catchphrase, but we are all on this earth. And that doesn't mean that we all have to make the same decisions. And that doesn't mean that we all have to follow the same rules, so to speak, because all of our realities are a little different. But the one rule that rules them all is the golden rule. Do unto others. How would you wish the things to be done to you? And unless you're a narcissist, you wouldn't want necessarily somebody else controlling and dictating to you how you should be. Or unless you're in a place of fear, or you're in a place of self-doubt, all those things, worry. Sometimes that is what somebody wants, and that's their choice. But also the golden rule has to do with a frequency, a bandwidth, right? A rate, a charge. Sorry to turn the light on. So what I'm hearing is take charge of our charge. We are in charge. We are the ones that are ruling. And this dominion, we're ruling our own dominion. And this has a domino effect. So if we can come from this place where we are maintaining our charge ahead, our charge forward, our ability to maintain charge is what I'm hearing. So, and not leaking it and giving our power away and giving our sovereignty away and saying, well, I'm in such a place of fear that I'm going to put you in charge. And that happens sometimes. Sometimes I'm not present and I appreciate somebody else making a decision, like my husband. Sometimes I say, why don't you decide, honey, because I just can't decide right now. And that's me having trust in my partner to make a decision that will benefit both of us. And sometimes we do have to place our trust in others. However, that doesn't mean that I'm going to give up my own charge. I'm still going to continue and work towards becoming more centripetal. So that is that spin, that toroidal spin that allows us to create this, well, we could say gravitational field around us from one perspective that keeps us in a state of flow, keeps us from getting stuck, and keeps us from hopping on the wrong bus. In which we look back and go, I've been on this ride for so long, I still don't know where I'm going. It's okay to feel that way sometimes, but I keep hearing we're rising up in ranks, we're rising up in ranks. There are so many of us who do want love and light and are holding space for neutrality, that this is inevitable, is what I keep hearing. The expansion for this group and for many in the collective is inevitable. Cool, and I'm being guided to play with that inevitability. In an even ability, I'm seeing it, we're even. And I'm going back to Pearl Jam. I was hearing even flow. Is it even flow? Whenever I hear Pearl Jam, I think of the pearl, the pineal, the pearl. I hear the pearl that's in the pineal, the pituitary, the crystalline frequency, right? This energy and bandwidth that we create when we are in that, I'm hearing spiral, and I'm seeing it spelled pearl with an S, and then I'm seeing it as spiral, so S-P-H-I, real. I could write all of this down. So pearl, spurl, whirl. And as we allow ourselves to unfold, and we allow others to unfold, we then blend our colors together. We blend our beautiful rainbow frequencies of love and light within a continuous, harmonious rainbow. I'm hearing rainbow pearl essence. It's like my favorite color. You guys ever seen the iridescent pearl with all the light colors in it? I love that. That's what I'm seeing. If you look at the inside of a like rainbow quartz or a pearl that's really just full of rainbows, we're doing that. We're merging and we're creating this beautiful place together. And I'm being guided to go back to Mother Earth is the pearl. She is our home. And we are merging in unity and oneness in such a way that has never been, I'm hearing, accomplished before. So, awesome. I'm just going to end on that note. This is just a little flow. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. In love and light. Namaste.